Hello and welcome to this lesson on Python, and we're going to look at turtles. Now this, I'm just going to run through a few things here to let you play around with. I'm not in class today, but we'll go over it again on the next class. Now a turtle is sort of, seems kind of odd, and it is. I mean, it's different than what we've been doing. We've been doing a bit more serious programming that we could maybe apply in everyday life. The turtle is something that helps you understand programming a little bit better. And it would be a great way to introduce two concepts that are very important to programming. One being loops, which we have seen, and the other being functions, which we haven't really looked at all. Although you've used functions, you've used print function, you've used the input function, and a couple other things. This is just to sort of make your own functions here, and so we'll talk a little bit about that. Anyways, turtles have a bit of a long history. Just switch the titles there, and I guess if I can play this, let me just get this. Oh, it's going to go over here. It's not going to do it very well. Let's just see here. We'll jump to the next slide and see. There we go. So the idea with the turtle, this is one of the original ones, programmed, I believe, with Logo, and it just lets students see what they were programming. So a lot of other programming languages have incorporated this, and as you can see at the bottom here, we've got some code that's running, and so the turtle's drawing some sort of pattern based on this code. So what you're going to learn how to do is do the code to make a certain pattern and make some kind of art here. So let's just take a look. We're going to experiment here. So this is some of the instructions that you can do. Okay, this is some of the code that I put in here. I'm basically just going to do this little bit here, and we can just see what's happening. But I encourage you to, go look at the documentation. Just search up TurtlePython or whatever, and you will be able to find lots of things here. Okay, so let's just open up a Turtle. So I'm going to go our Python here, and I'm going to do a new file. And we talked about this the other day, that importing modules. And so what you're going to have to do is import turtle, okay? And so once you've imported turtle, you can do lots of different things. So if we just sort of move this out of the way again, and just sort of follow along with what we've got here, making sure we've got what this does, this line here, Bob. Now you can call your turtle anything you want. I called it Bob. And so what it's doing is, oops, if I can type, is from the turtle module, we're going to run sort of the turtle function. And that basically creates a turtle called Bob. So what you'll notice is that below, there's a bunch of things that we can do with Bob. And these are really just the setup here. So for example, bob.shape. And just to make it, because we're doing with turtles, we can turn that into a turtle. By default, it's just a little arrow, but you can change it into a neat little turtle-shaped object if you like. You can change the color that Bob is drawing. So color, we just have to make sure we spell it the American, and you could put, say, red in, but there's a bunch of other colors, and you can look those up. Bob.speed, that next one there, one is the default already. You can speed him up or slow him down. What's useful about this is if you're not really interested in looking at what step by step what's happening, then speeding it up and just getting the final drawing is good. If you want to see what's happening, then you can slow it down, put it at 1, and then you can sort of see exactly what your commands did. So let's just keep it at 1 for the moment, but I'll just keep it in there. Another one that you can do, there's a couple on here that you can kind of see. Yeah, I mean, we won't worry about those. I think you can change the background color, you can put a title in, there's a few other ones there. But just very, very, very quickly here, bob.forward. Okay, and we'll put 50 there, and we'll sort of explain that. And then turtle.done. That's generally what we want to do at the end. It just says that we've finished with the turtle sort of module, and our turtles are over. So pretty straightforward. Let's just take a look at it. Basically, it's just going to Bob is going to move forward, and this number here is not a measurement maybe we're used to, but will be more important when we're dealing with Photoshop. It's pixels. So 50 pixels across the screen, and you will get an idea of how long that is. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is go far, so I'm just going to save it. So run module. Okay, and I'm just going to save it to my desktop, and you could call it, Turtle Practice or whatever. And what will happen? There we go. So there's your turtle. Like I said, it changed that graphic from an arrow to a turtle. You'll notice it's red, right? Because we set the color to red. And if you did see it, it moved, and that's 50 pixels forward, okay? So if you made this into 200 or something, obviously it's just going to go farther. So if we run that, so there we are, right? So it is roughly 4 times, exactly 4 times, what it was before. Now, what else can you do, right? So if you look at those commands, there's a few more things that you can do. We can see there's right. And notice there's a little bit of, you can do it with a bit of abbreviation there. Backward, right? So you can get to reverse basically. Right, left. You can get a go to or a set position or set pause, right? Same idea. And I believe these we require 2 things, so that an X and a Y coordinate. So just to explain that a little bit, if we go back to that turtle drawing, right? The movement here, just like on a graph, is cross horizontal X, right? So across, I always think across is X, and then the vertical up and down, so in this case this way, right, would be the Y coordinate. So let's just play around a little bit there, and you don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing. You can change these up here. So if we went bob forward, right, we could do bob.right, okay? And then, like it says here, it's an angle. So we have to turn it by angle units. It uses degrees. So if it turns right, we can make it 90 degrees. Now, if we do this, you can see the turtle turned, but he didn't do anything. So what we'd have to do to keep that going, I'm just going to copy this and run that module again. So now turns, and then he keeps moving. And if we copied this a couple more times, right? Let's just see here. I'm going to do that. So he's going to go turn another one, and maybe we'll just do this, just so he ends up exactly back where he was. So forward, turn, forward, turn, forward, turn, forward. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks good. So if we run this again, do yes. Good. We get a nice square. Okay, so he's drawn this square here. So pretty straightforward, okay? So that gives you an idea. Now, like I said, there's lots of different things you can do. You can play around with it. I'm not going to explain everything at the moment. I'll show you a few more things when I'm back. But you can play with these. Go and check out the documentation there, and you'll see a few other things. Now, we did just draw the square. And so if we go back and look at the code, is there anything you can notice about that code? So if I was to look at just this bit here, is there something that you kind of, I guess, see a pattern or something like that? So if you're sort of saying, well, yeah, it's the same thing over and over and over again, right? We did it 4 times. That is where, like I was mentioning, loops are very useful. So generally in programming, we want to be able to reduce the code, the amount of code that we write, for a couple of reasons. One is it just makes it, easier to read if it's more compact, right? Instead of having 1,000 lines of code, maybe we could reduce it to 100 lines of code. Okay, that's going to be an improvement. The second thing is that the more lines of code, the more likely you are to make a mistake. So again, if I was having to repeat this over and over again, maybe I'll make a mistake somewhere. Even if I copy and paste it, maybe I copy and paste it too many times. Okay. The other thing too, and we'll sort of see this, is that when we kind of hard code it a little bit like this, with all these instructions, if I want to modify it, then it becomes a little bit difficult, right? What if I wanted to make a smaller square? Something like that. Well, I got to change it 1, 2, 3, 4 times, right? I got to change it 4 spots there. So yeah, I mean, there's different things we can do. So let's just take a look at the loop. Okay, so I'm going to convert this into a loop. And I think, let's just see here, right? Yeah, so it shows you here. So it was a little bit different. I only I had 50 instead of 200 there. But those lines of code, right, I can change into a for loop. So let's do that. So I'll go back, and you can go on there, or watch me here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to say for I in range, and we know that it's going to do it 4 times. So this basically tells me how many times it's going to go through it. Don't worry too much about the I here, but the I is usually a counter, so it's called sort of the iterator. Don't worry too much. I'm going to delete all this code. It's gone. Let's run it. Now, the key thing is, should be no different. So the 1 time through the loop, 2nd time through the loop, 3rd time through the loop, 4th time through the loop. So going through it 4 times, right, I only had to write the code, kind of like I only did 2 lines of code, right? Made it a bit easier. Now, this is what I'm saying. If I wanted to make this, a smaller one, so let's just do it 100. Well, instead of changing that 4 times, I just changed it once. So I'm going to run the module. And there we go. Okay, so that's kind of part of what, the benefit of doing this. And I'm going to show you one more thing. Now this is basically, right, like this is a square. So I could actually go ahead and create a function called square. Now a function is a little bit of a different idea in the sense that a function is kind of like a mini program within your program. So you have a program in total, you can have mini programs within it. When we did print and input, those were actually functions, and we'll see how that sort of works here. So what I'm going to do is just come down here and go def, and then I'm going to go square. You'll notice it's a little bit different here, okay? So def is a keyword that means define, right? We're going to define, and we're going to define square. And so what I've done here is I put in a name that's descriptive, almost like a variable name, and then I put in this open and close parentheses. We'll come back to that in a second, but a function needs at least an open and close parenthesis, and then our little colon as well. And as we've seen, this colon kind of means we have to indent. So I'm going to indent these as well. Okay, so just bringing everything in one. Now, let's run it. It doesn't do anything. Oh, what have I done? Don't worry, don't worry. Mr. Fleming's got it under control here. Not moving, but that's okay, okay? The reason why it's okay is we have defined the function. We kind of like, almost created like a dictionary, wrote the word down, and then defined it, gave it a meaning to it, right? So the meaning is this code here. But we haven't actually used our word. We haven't used our function. We have to, the word is, call the function, and I'll do that right down here. So if I come in here and I call it, this is just like we did before. We called the print function. We called the input function. We created a function called square, which we can call. So what it does, when Python's running this, it says, okay, import turtle, creates a turtle called Bob, it sets its properties, and then it says, oh, I've got a function called square. I'll remember that. I'll come back to that if I ever have to run square. First time I ran it, we never called or ran square, so it never used it. But this time it says, oh, they want me to use square. Good. I know what square is. So Python goes back up here, and then it says, oh, I gotta do a loop, and I gotta do this. So it does this 4 times, and then that's finished square, and it goes down to the next. Okay? Now you can check that out in that Python visualization, and when I'm back, I'll show you it as well. I just don't want this video to go on forever. It's already 15 minutes here. Okay, so let's run this. So nothing different, okay? But you can see, right, that it's kind of neat, because if I wanted to draw 2 squares, now this is not going to be too interesting, but so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go bob.forward, and let's go forward. Well, that's 100, so I'm going to go 200. Before I do that, though, I'm going to do bob dot, and I always get this wrong. I think it's pen up. If I get an error, we'll fix it. And then it's going to go forward 200. Then I'm going to do bob dot pen down, I hope. And then we're going to draw another square. Okay, so let's see if we get an error. If we get an error, that's okay. Let's see, we won't know until we... Okay, good. So you see the pen went up. Perfect. So notice what happened here. We drew one square. We got back to where we were. Then we did this little pen up. So what happens is that pen that's kind of, you know, the turtle's carrying, we pull it up into its shell, I guess, and then it's just not writing. So it went forward 200, right? It went forward here 200 without the pen up, or without the pen writing. So the pen was up, then it put the pen back down, and then was able to draw our other square. So you can see here we drew two squares, right, just by calling that code twice, right, rather than having to rewrite all this code. So there's a big benefit. Another benefit, let's take a look at another thing. Now this square is always going to draw our 100 pixel square. Okay, but what if I want a bigger square? What if I want a smaller square? Now I could create, you know, big square, small square, medium square, right? I could define infinite number of squares, but that's kind of, that's going to put a lot of code in there, right? If I wanted to do a different sort of square size, right? A function for each different square size that I might need. So watch this. So what I'm going to do is put in a argument, okay? Or in this case, really here it's a parameter. It's the value that we're going to call, and I'm going to call it size. Just a variable name, okay? I'm calling it size. Instead of doing 100 here, I'm going to type in size. So whatever number I call square on, okay, whatever number I put inside the parentheses, it is going to be the forward size, and that defines the size of the square. So down here, now if I try to run this, it's going to give me an error. Okay, so let's just take a look at that. Okay, and we can't see it over here. Let's bring it over here. Right, it says something about square, the function, is missing one argument called size. Yes, I didn't define the size, right? So what I need to do, let's get rid of that, is right here where I'm trying to draw the square, let's do the smaller square. Okay, the 100. We'll do the 100, and then over here, I'll do a 200. So what it should do is it should draw a 100 size square, and then draw a 200 size square. Size, I mean by pixels. So we'll run this. Boom, boom. So there's my first one. And now hopefully, there we go. It's drawing the 200 one. Okay? And we could, you know, do lots of cool stuff with it. Now, I don't think I'll go on anymore because, like I said, I've already done almost 20 minutes here. There is, you know, a little bit of prediction there. I think I just sort of did that already. I talked about the functions here. Basically, I've done that. And then there's some challenges here. Okay. Now these ones you might have to look up a few things. How would you draw an equilateral triangle? Okay. Can you fill in the triangle? So that's a command there. Can you draw multiple triangles side by side? Pen up, pen down. We just talked about that. Given the table below, can you draw more regular shapes? So could you draw a pentagon, a hexagon, an octagon, a decagon? Okay, so see what you can do, and there's sort of these external angles, so think about it turning as you work through. So you might have to do a few things. So these are some challenges here that I'd like you to try to do. How could you do this? How could you get it to draw a nice little straw? How could you get it to do multiple straws like that? Could you get it to do something like this? Or like this? Now I'm going to help you a little bit there in a second, but I'll just sort of keep going down here just to mention a few things. We'll do the pizza party. We'll draw this pizza party here. We'll do that together when I'm back. And Then there's a few. The assignment here is going to be you trying to impress me by drawing something. So you could do some sort of cool pattern. So some people have tried to do this or do something like that. That's pretty straightforward here. This one's a little bit more complex. You could try writing out your initials or writing out your name or something like that using Python. We'll talk a little bit more, but feel free to practice and play around today. So what I was going to show you, okay, yeah, let's go back to this. So here I was drawing a square. Okay, I'm going to get rid of all this here, except for Python or Turtle done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for I in range, I don't know, 100. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a square, okay, and then, and I'll make it, I don't know, 100. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn, so bob.right, and I'm not going to turn 90 degrees, I'm going to turn, let's just try 5. This is a bit of an experiment. I'm going to speed up my turtle a bit. Might be here all day if we did this. So run module, should be okay. And now you're starting to see a little bit about sort of the patterns that are occurring here. Okay, now I could have figured out the math a little bit better there, because I know if I'm doing a circle 360 degrees divided by 5, right, I can sort of figure that out. 72 times I'd only have to do it. It's overlapping at the moment, or not quite yet. Yeah, now it's overlapping. So it's kind of some wasted cycles here. It's not going to change the image of it, the appearance of it. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. So you can see by just looping, in this case, too many times, but it's 100 times here, drawing a square and just shifting it, then I was able to create a bit of a different pattern, right? I could create different shapes, I could do different things, and create kind of neat, almost generative art, right? I just programmed one square, and then I was able to do this. So that's why I'd like you to play around with this, because you get a bit more of a feel for things. Try to maybe create your own triangle function, maybe a rectangle function, a variety of different things that you could create there. Okay, so I'll end this because, like I said, I don't want it to go on too long, and I just want you to sort of mess around with Turtle. Try to maybe create, like I said, your own function, a triangle function, rectangle function. Think about how you can make it go with the size. Look things up, okay? Just play around, because that's really the best way to kind of understand how this code is working. Okay, good luck with it. I'll be back on Thursday, so I'll help you out with anything there, and yeah, do your best.